Blue Lock Eyes are back, and this time we're breaking them down into two deadly types, the Core Eyes and the Signature Eyes. So hold on tight, because starting with the Core Eyes, I'll introduce you to every eye in Blue Lock, go through the new types, and break down all the newly confirmed users, all in just a few minutes. Let's start. Core Eyes are the types of eye abilities that aren't exclusive to a single player. This means they can appear in multiple players, or even in all of them, usually during their most hype moments in the series. Aura Eyes are the first example of Core Eyes and maybe the most common ones we've seen, though that's still up for debate. Like the name suggests, Aura Eyes look like glowing smoke or energy coming from the player's eyes. They show up when a player goes through a shift in mindset, when they chase their goals harder, or when their goals turn into something more egoistic. There are a lot of examples of this. The first time we see it is in episode 1 of the anime. Isagi unlocks his Aura Eyes when he chooses to eliminate Kira instead of shooting Igarashi. Chigiri shows it when he finally runs again despite the fear of ruining his injured leg. Nagi awakens it when he decides to take action on his own for the first time during the match against Team Z. Later in the manga, Nagi shows them again when he evolves and shows off his new style. Agi and Kaiser both show it during the same match. Isagi also unleashes his Aura Eyes after learning Metavision and tells Kaiser he now has real hope of crushing him. Even Raichi has a moment. When he's picked as a starter against Dubers, he realizes how important his job is to protect the team so either Isagi or Kaiser can win it. That full ego boost triggers his Aura Eyes. Igarashi also unlocks them when he stops Ren using his genius-killing militia. Even Ego joins in. When he sees Isagi hit a wall during the Paris X-Gen match, he gets fired up. That moment is where Isagi is supposed to find his formula for evolution and the true meaning of being a genius or talented learner. There are a lot more moments when Aura Eyes show up throughout the Neo-Egoist League matches. And if you look closely, what really connects all these moments is the reason behind how they awaken. It always happens when a player is fired up during a personal mutation or awakening. Whenever players hit that moment, whether they're trying to score, defend, block a shot, or make an insane pass, that's when their Aura Eyes come out. Even though Aura Eyes aren't tied to just one player, the color of the aura usually is. At first, the glow is a standard blue, matching the theme of Blue Lock. But as players evolve, the color shifts to match their individual egos and personalities. For instance, Baro gets a red aura, Bachara shows yellow, and Nagi gets a black-gray aura that looks like ash. And there are even more out there. Isagi's aura is a special one. His is called the Green Blaze, and this green flame represents his true talent. You see, Isagi has the ability to spark evolution in everyone around him, whether they're on his team or the enemies. By devouring his rivals, he can cause chemical reactions that lead to everyone's evolution as players. The thing is, do you know that there are cases when these Aura Eyes clash with a player's flow state and turn into something else entirely? A brand new type of eye ability, something even more unique. Spiral Eyes, or as you've suggested, Egoist Eyes, is one of the main core eye types in Blue Lock. You'll usually see them when a player is totally focused or locked in on their goal. Some fans even call them Desire Eyes or Hunger Eyes because they show up when a character is chasing their goals, craving victory, or in those moments where they're the most egoistic. Now, a lot of you mentioned that maybe Egoist Eyes are actually the same as Inverted Eyes or Glowing Eye, but after thinking it through, Spiral Eyes still feels like the best fit for that name. Let me explain. The design of Egoist Eyes is pretty simple. They look like swirling spirals spinning inside the eyes. What's really cool is that this eye type can appear with other types too, like Aura Eyes. That's because players often awaken this form when their mindset changes. It's the moment when they're most egoistic and hungry to reach their goals. This is the most common reason players unlock Egoist Eyes, but the feelings behind it can be different for each one. For example, Isagi first shows Egoist Eyes when he decides to join Blue Lock. He also gets them again when he's focused on beating Team W and yells at Chigiri to move. Or in the Team V match when he tells Nagi to shut up because he's about to get to the good part. Even Ego himself shows these eyes when he tells Blue Lock players they'll never become the world's best striker unless they become the biggest egoists out there. Since Ego and Isagi are two of the biggest egoists in the story, it makes sense that they're the ones who show these eyes the most. But that doesn't mean they're the only ones. Man, even Fraud Kuan shows Egoist Eyes when he betrayed Team Z. Scope Eyes or Sniper Eyes are special eyes made just for scoring goals. These eyes help a player aim at one exact spot in the goal, like they're looking through a sniper scope. When someone activates Scope Eyes, their focus locks in on the target spot they want to shoot. The best example is when Chigiri scores Manshine City's first goal against Bastion München. While doing his 44-degree Panther Snipe, Chigiri first used Inverted Eyes. But right before he shoots, he switches to Scope Eyes to aim at the corner of the goal. After the shot, his eyes go back to inverted mode. That short switch is what makes Scope Eyes so powerful. Quick timeout. Before we dive into the last few types of Core Eyes and reveal what changed in Predator Eyes, Metavision, and more, if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Alright, let's kick off. Now let's talk about Glowing Eyes. These are like a cooler version of Aura Eyes, but not really a direct upgrade. Glowing eyes show up when a player is about to do something crazy, like a big shot or a huge save. Instead of just smoky auras over the eyes though, the whole eye changes color and starts glowing. While aura eyes have a smoky glow hovering on top of the eyes, glowing eyes turns the entire eye into a single glowing color. Sometimes it's just white, but more often it reflects the player's signature aura color. For example, Isagi's eyes glow green when he steals the ball from Baro during the second selection. Shido's eyes glow too when he pulls off his Dragon Drive in the U20 match. His normal eyes turn into glowing ones just as he jumps to score. Literally every cell in his body is locked in as Shido executes that move. Baro also shows glowing eyes when he goes after Isagi to steal a pass. At first they turn white, then they glow red like his usual aura. Even Igarashi shows glowing eyes for a moment when he stops Ren with his genius-killing Militia move. And Nico has glowing eyes when he steals the ball from Isagi after he unlocks full Metavision during the match against Bastard München. All these moments have one thing in common. The players are focused like crazy, locked in on the play, and pulling off something insane. Judging by how Shido awakened it, glowing eyes seem to be a major sign of a player getting close to the flow state. Inverted eyes are also connected to the flow state. Players usually activate them when they pull off crazy shots or speed past their opponents with fast moves or quick dashes. Some people call it goal eyes because it often shows up when someone scores. But it doesn't always happen like that. When it comes to looks, this is probably one of the coolest eye designs in the whole series. Like the name says, it flips the normal look of a person's eyes. The entire eye turns black and the pupil becomes white or shows a unique color that depends on the player. One of the best examples is when Sei activated it during the Japan U20 match. He brought out around 70% more of his power, and during that moment, his ego and aura showed clearly through and around those inverted eyes. The same thing happened with Noah during the Paris X-Gen match. When Noah says that his real plan is to use Isagi to help Kaiser evolve and become his rival, that's when his inverted eyes show up. His version is different though. You can see both the flow state and his ego pouring out through his aura. Do you know what else I noticed? While it doesn't happen every single time, a lot of Blue Lock players seem to activate their inverted eyes when they're using their strongest weapons, like when Chigiri goes for his 44-degree Panther Snipe, or when Nagi pulls off that 5-shot revolver fake volley. Even Baro gets those eyes during the villain-style goal against Chigiri and Kunigami's team in the second selection. At first, Baro's eyes are just glowing when he steals the ball from Isagi. That's when his ego wakes up again. He refuses to bow down to Isagi or give up his hunger to score. From the moment he takes the ball and charges past Chigiri, his eyes are still glowing. But the second he lands the goal, they shift into the inverted eyes. Still, this isn't a set rule. Scoring isn't always the reason for inverted eyes. Take Loki for example. Sure, when he runs past Ren and Isagi's team in the World 5 match and scores, his inverted eyes activate. But in the Neo Egoist League match against Bastard München, Loki gets subbed in and uses his crazy speed to get past Raichi and Hiyori, then passes to Ren. No goal, but the inverted eyes still appear. And don't forget, inverted eyes is active when he stops Kaiser's impact mid-shot and calls it slow, even though it might be the fastest shot in the world. The point is, inverted eyes don't only show up during goals. They can also appear during passes or defense. Here's a good example. You see, in the Mannstein City vs Bastard München match, 3 players activate them in just one play. With the score tied 2-2, Ryo grabs a loose ball and activates his inverted eyes to sim what looks like a shot, but it's actually a pass to Nagi, who also gets the eyes. Right before Nagi can shoot, Isagi shuts it down using both inverted eyes and Metavision through their defense. Actually, some people even call them reflex eyes because players can trigger them during short bursts of reflexive play. It's not a full-on flow state, but it's still powerful. For example, during the third selection, Isagi uses full reflex instead of overthinking. He focuses everything on the moment when Hiyori might pass to either Rin or Shido and dashes between them to take the ball. At that moment, Isagi's eyes are a mix of inverted and aura eyes. But if we go back to goal scoring, we can't deny how big a factor it is. Perhaps the best example is when Isagi combines both his left and right direct shots to create his 2-gun direct volley and score against Paris X-Gen. In the end, the closest thing we have to a formula for inverted eyes is a mix of goal, speed, and reflex. And while it feels like a moment of flow, don't forget, flow state actually has its own eye design. Flow state eyes are the official eye type activated when a player enters a state of flow. Visually, they look like a shockwave pattern, with short lines circling inward, like a pulse echoing inside the eye. It's arguably the most important and most common eye type in the entire series. This eye form only appears when a player fully immerses themselves in the flow moment. When they enter that trance-like state, when they're so focused, time disappears and everything just clicks. It's not just about zoning in. It's about syncing your mind and body so well that the game becomes instinctive, almost euphoric. But how does one even enter this state? So far, Blue Lock has revealed 3 main ways to reach flow. The first and most frequent is something called challenge-centered focus. This happens when a player faces a goal that's just difficult enough to push them to their limit. Not too easy, not too hard. If the challenge is too great, it leads to anxiety. It's too easy and the player falls into boredom. but when the balance is just right, the player hits that sweet spot and enters flow. A perfect example is Shido's Big Bang Drive, but we've seen many more, especially during the Japan U20 match. Bachira's solo egoistic dribble, Yukimiya's street-style dribbling and shot attempt, Aiku's dramatic block, Nico shutting down Shido and Sei, and of course, Isagi's match-winning goal. These are all moments triggered by challenge-centered focus. What's crazy is that we've probably experienced this ourselves in real life. Think about a time when we were completely locked in, your brain on fire, focused, time slipping away, and it felt good. That might have been flow. Whether it was passive or active depends on the context. But if you were fully aware and chose to immerse yourself, congrats! You just entered a challenge-centered flow state. The second method is called egocentrism, or what Blue Lock calls the protagonist feeling. This is when a player reaches total immersion by believing they are the main character, the center of the universe. In other words, they think, I'm the best in the world. This game is mine. This mindset allows them to block out anything else and perform at their peak because, in their mind, it's their story. Egocentrism allows players to become completely self-centered in their own goals. Everyone believes they're the protagonist of the story, and that mindset triggers their peak performance. This gateway to flow is especially visible in the Manshine City vs Bastard München match. Take Yukimiya for example. He combines his challenge to devour Isagi with his egocentrism belief that he's the star of the show. And it works. He enters flow multiple times in that single game. Ryo's egocentrism is tied to his desire to help Nagi become the best player in the world. In his mind, he's the one supporting the hero, and that belief leads him to unlock a stronger version of his Neo-Chameleon mode. Nagi is also completely immersed in egocentrism during his 5-shot revolver fake volley. And Isagi? His final play, where he passes to Yukimiya to set up the sword screw shot, is pure protagonist level ego. He orchestrates it all just to create his own masterpiece, with Kaiser reduced to nothing but a clown in his story. Now, just to clarify, Ego himself says there are many ways to enter flow. So, this next one? It's definitely not the last, but it's an important one. I call it flow state through evolution. And hey, before you roast my naming sense in the comments, yes, I made it up. But it fits, because this is what happens when players evolve in the middle of a match by giving everything to a play. We're talking about sudden awakenings, insane ego bursts, and monstrous plays. Chigiri hits flow through evolution when he overcomes his fear of injury and lets loose. Baro evolves when he refuses to pass to Isagi and scores that villainous goal. Ryo reaches it when he adapts his game for the first time without Nagi and develops his original chameleon style. And in the Neo-Egoist League, Kaiser experiences this when he resets to 0. He sheds his malice, embraces restriction, and finds evolution in it. And that reawakening leads him to score using the Kaiser Impact Magnus. There are other huge examples, such as Baro hijacking Ubers and turning the team into his personal weapon. Hiyori evolving from a player ready to quit into someone who wants to produce the best striker in the world, even pulling off that insane reflexive chemical reaction. And of course, Isagi himself. Just like Kaiser in the Paris X-Gen match, Isagi lets go of his toxic rivalry with Rin, his resentment for Kaiser, and even his admiration for Noah. He drops all that noise. What's left is a raw desire to win. That moment of internal evolution pushes him into flow, and from it, he awakens a brand new Eye ability. One that wins him the match against Paris X-Gen and crowns him as Blue Lock's Demon King. But more on that in a bit. By the way, if you're curious about flow state and want to see every game-changing moment it shows up in Blue Lock, check out this video where we explain exactly that in just a few minutes. What's more, flow state allows some players in the series to awaken a completely different eye type that's unique to them. These eye types are called Signature Eyes, also known as Ability Eyes. Monster Eyes is not an official term, but it refers to the special version of these Signature Eyes that appears when a player fully enters their flow state or even when they tap into a mini version of it. Monster Eyes are like the next level of flow state. They're a physical sign of a player's manifestation of ego coming to life. The clearest example is Bachira. When he enters his monster trance, his eyes glow, and half of his face turns into a monster mask-like form. It's like his aura is taking over. Players who awaken this eye type often hit a whole new level of performance. They look wild, excited, and totally free on the field. Bachira isn't the only one either. Aiku Himizu also shows this in episode Nagi when he scores a goal. Just like Bachira, half of Aiki's face changes. In his case, it reflects his snake-like liar personality. Second on this list are Berserker Eyes, which is unique to Itoshi Rin. And you can bet this eye type turns him into the most chaotic destroyer in all of Blue Lock. It's full-on self-destruction mode. This is the state where Rin completely loses it. His eye design distorts, his tongue sticks out, and you can tell this isn't normal flow. He's so deep in a trance that his physical abilities start going beyond their limit. We first witnessed Rin enter flow during the Japan U20 match, and it's fair to say that he completely dismantles the defense by turning their own weapons against them. That's the heart of Rin's Berserker Eyes, crushing opponents using their strengths. Unlike his brother Sei, who crushes others graciously, Rin's way is raw and violent. He's like a villain kaiju who craves the strongest version of his enemies so he can smash his own peak against theirs to destroy both in the process. And during this state, Rin transforms into something incomprehensible. It is so incomprehensible, in fact, that when he reawakens the Berserker Eyes during the Bastard Munchkin match, even Isagi can't make sense of him right away. The question is, how did Rin reach this state to begin with? In the U20 match, Rin wanted to take the field solo. He was irritated by the idea of relying on teammates, so when he felt the restrictions from his own team, he shifted his focus toward destroying Isagi, and that raw desire triggered the activation of his Berserker Eyes. However, he wasn't able to use it again after that. Not during any of the Neo Egoist League matches until he clashed with Isagi once more, this time as Parasect Jin faced Bastard Munchkin. That's when Rin finally understood. The only way to bring out his Berserker Eyes again was to recreate the same extreme pressure. He realized he could only evolve when he was about to be destroyed. Rin thrives under restriction. The more pressure Isagi put on him, the closer he got to breaking, and that pressure became the trigger. In reality, this still falls under challenge-centered focus, but with Rin, it's way more personal. To activate this form, he needs two things. First is the desire to fight the best version of his opponent, and second is the courage to risk everything, even his life, to destroy them, especially Sei and Isagi. Even his flow during the U20 match was the result of three things: his innate physical gifts, challenge-based focus, and Sei's decision to take the match seriously. And get this, he could have scored right away when he reawakened this state, but he chose not to. Why? Because in his mind, it wasn't enough to surpass Sei's Phantom. He believed that scoring then wouldn't lead to a true evolution. Chigiri's 44-degree Panther Snipe is a golden formula he developed in the Neo Egoist League. It's a high-speed, high-efficiency weapon built to mass-produce goals, but here's what makes it even cooler. You see, during this move, Chigiri's eyes briefly take on a unique 44 design, surrounded by a signature aura. The shot is all about precision positioning. Chigiri has his own golden zone, a specialty area tailored to his playstyle. For him, that's 19 meters from the goal and 44 degrees to the left. From a standing position, he bursts through defenders at max speed, cuts in, and fires a controlled shot aimed at the corner of the net. It's worth noting that this eye type didn't appear when Chigiri first used his Panther Snipe and scored Manshine City's first goal. But later, when he attempts the same move, and Yukimiya blocks him just in time, the 44-degree Panther Snipe eyes are clearly visible. Assassin Eyes is a signature eye type that was originally unique to Karasu, or so we thought. After all, it's marked by a distinctive ring pattern around the pupil, and it's tightly tied to Karasu's mindset and playstyle. Karasu plays like a calculated assassin. He studies the field, identifies the weakest link, and targets them relentlessly. He doesn't go for unnecessary risks and only fights when he knows he can win. This formula worked wonders during Blue Lock's early phases, where not every player had evolved yet. He'd pick off his targets and push through until he scored. But things changed in the Neo Egoist League. With the level of competition skyrocketing, targeting weak links wasn't enough, so Karasu evolved his game and used his Assassin Eyes with a new focus, shutting down the central player of the enemy team. Neutralizing the core would cause the entire team structure to collapse. What's crazy is that this eye design shows up in other characters too. Don Lorenzo from Ubers has the same ring-like design. And it fits since his entire ace-eating playstyle is about locking down the opposing ace until they completely can't play the game. Even Loki, during the star change in the Bastard Munchkin match, briefly shows this eye type. His eyes shift to the ring design when he enters the game. It's unusual for Loki since this eye type doesn't really match his usual playstyle. And if we go by essence alone, marking, targeting, and locking down opponents, Loki having Assassin Eyes doesn't really sit well.
Predator Eyes is one of Blue Lock's signature eye abilities, and so far we've seen 4 confirmed users, with one maybe user who's still up for debate. If that's confusing, listen to me till the end. Predator Eyes is an eye type that's instantly recognizable by its cat-like split pupils. When activated, the striker enters a mode where every attack turns into a prey hunting shot. In this state, the strikers become the predator, and the goal, along with the goalkeeper, becomes the prey. Predator Eyes gives the user tunnel vision. They lock in on the goal and the keeper, watching, waiting, until they see the perfect moment to strike. Often, they're able to spot a shooting course that seems completely blocked to normal players. In simple terms, it's a skill that helps mass-produce goals. In our first Blue Lock Eyes video, only Baru and Kaiser were confirmed users of this ability. But during the Parasect Jin vs Bastard Munchkin match, 2 more awakened it. Yukimiya activates Predator Eyes when trying to score the game-winning goal. He zones in with total focus, but Charles blocks the shot. Then there's Rin, but his case is a little different. After all, he awakens Predator Eyes on defense. Yeah, you heard that right. At its core, Predator Eyes is all about tunnel vision into a single objective. And Rin's objective isn't to score, but to completely destroy the connection between Isagi and Kaiser. He waits, analyzes, and strategizes, keeping Isagi within a precise 4-meter radius while tracking his physical stats and movement patterns. He's hunting, but just not for a goal. And that's why it still qualifies as Predator Eyes. In fact, Rin may have already shown early signs of this back in the 3rd selection, when he used Shido's blind spot to sneak in a goal. Now, what about Shido? A lot of people argue he has Predator Eyes, and for good reason. His pupils already look like slit eyes. His behavior is aggressive and instinctual, and his playstyle screams Predator. The thing is, that might just be his default eye design. Kinda like Corona's eyes, which have a similar design, but they don't indicate a special ability. Plus, one of Shido's strongest weapons is his spatial awareness, which allows him to score no-look goals. And Predator Eyes isn't about spatial awareness. It's about tunnel vision and locking in on a direct path to the goal. So, does Shido actually have Predator Eyes? Maybe. He's got the killer instinct, the behavior, and the scoring style to match. It makes total sense, but until the manga gives us a clear confirmation, we can only speculate. Charles Chevalier's Playmaker Eyes is a unique form of Metavision that blends in his ability to read the field with his contrarian personality, and the devilish urge to chase what gives him pleasure. This Playmaker Eyes is a signature eye type born from Charlot's personality and talent. He can sense where the best plays are about to happen, whether it's from his own team or the opponent. Once he spots it, he trusts his instincts and sends out crazy good passes to what he calls the ultimate contrarian spot. With this eye type, Charlotte doesn't just create plays. He can also sense where opponents are planning theirs, letting him intercept or steal the ball before they can do anything. In the Neo-Egoist League, this helped him form chemical reactions with players like Shido, assist Rin, or even link up with Karasu. As two talented learners, they even managed to shut down Isagi and Kaiser's offensive duo. So far, no one else has shown this exact kind of Metavision except Charlotte. Metavision Eyes is a special eye type currently unique to what's called talented learners, which are players who rapidly absorb information and evolve mid-game. But just because it's a signature eye type doesn't mean it's player exclusive. Instead, it's rare because not everyone can awaken it. Whether a player can unlock Metavision depends on factors like spatial awareness, football IQ, stamina, and more. To understand how it works, we need to break down how human vision operates. You see, the eyes have two types of vision, central and peripheral. Central vision is what you use to directly focus on something. It's high definition and narrow. Peripheral vision, on the other hand, is everything outside that focus. It's lower in resolution, but it's what makes you aware of your surroundings. In football, peripheral vision becomes critical. If a player locks in too hard on the ball using only their central vision, they lose track of everything else, like positions, movements, and space. That leads to delayed decisions. However, a player with Metavision constantly absorbs real-time information through their peripheral sight. This allows them to track the ball, teammates, and opponents simultaneously. That's what makes Metavision so powerful. It's like seeing the game in 4D, a godlike form of awareness that goes beyond regular perception. It transcends two-dimensional line of sight, thinking, and even surpasses typical three-dimensional spatial awareness. However, unlocking Metavision isn't easy. It demands elite spatial awareness, sharp insight, high football intelligence, and strong mental and physical stamina. Without all of these, a player can't keep processing and reacting at that level. The design of Metavision varies. Most players show a grid-filled circle in their eyes. Isagi, for example, sees it as jigsaw puzzle pieces. Charles Chevalier's Playmaker Eyes is a unique version as well. Interestingly, even though the concept of Metavision was formally introduced during the Neo-Egoist League, players like Isagi, Nico, and Aiku subconsciously used early versions of it long before. A glimpse of this happens during the third selection when Isagi reflexively intercepts a pass meant for Rin or Shido. So far, Blue Lock has revealed two main types of Metavision, and hinted at a special third version that could be its ultimate evolution. Analytical Metavision is a type of Metavision most common among players with strong analytical thinking. These players are who break down plays logically, and for them, precision and information accuracy are everything. Their reads on the field are based off gathering data, calculating possibilities, and predicting movements with their near machine-like precision. A perfect example is Aiku. We first see his Metavision in the Japan U20 match, and later he upgrades it even further in the Neo-Egoist League. Aiku's vision doesn't just let him see the field, but it also lets him see numbers, graphs, and even the specs of his teammates and opponents. It's like he's reading a dashboard in real time. That's how he can anticipate attacks and shut them down before they even start. Nico, on the other hand, has been tapping into an early version of this since the start of Blue Lock. He uses it during the U20 match, but doesn't fully awaken it until the Neo-Egoist League. With it, Nico can read Isagi's plays, track the field, and even calculate the odds of success in real time. But since he hasn't mastered it yet, he's prone to missing key blind spots, something Isagi takes full advantage of. Karasu also falls under this type. Given his analytical playstyle, it's only natural that his version of Metavision is analytical too. Now here's something important. You see, the difference between analytical Metavision and the next type isn't about the eye design, but instead about the mindset and application of the eye ability. It's not just what they see, but how they process and use that vision on the field. Adaptive Metavision, on the other hand, leans more on flexibility than raw analysis. To be clear, players with this type still scan the field and process information like everyone else, but what sets them apart is their ability to quickly adapt to both planned and unexpected plays in real time. They're the ones who can improvise on the spot, whether it's someone evolving mid-match or a sudden awakening changing the entire flow of the game. Adaptive users are the first to come up with the new strategies using the data they see. Isagi might just be the best adaptive Metavision user in the whole series, which is kinda funny since his title as the Genius of Adaptability was supposed to be a fraud, but it fits. Aside from him, there are others like Snuffy, who might be a mix of both analytical and adaptive, as well as Kaiser, Ryo, and even Hiyori, who show signs of this style. Recently, Pablo Cavazos was added to the list too. In the episode Nagi spin-off, it's finally confirmed that he uses Metavision. Right before he touches the ball, he scans the field in a split second to judge exactly where he should pass it. That quick reaction under pressure is pure adaptive Metavision. There are also players like Hitoshi Sei and Lorenzo, who many fans believe might have it. And while it's definitely possible, nothing confirmed yet, so we can't officially include them. Awakened Metavision, also known as Omnivision, is like the final stage of Metavision Eyes. Right now, only Isagi has reached this level. It seems like this can only be unlocked when a Metavision user fully embraces the idea of playing as a talented learner. When Isagi enters this awakened state, you'll notice puzzle pieces forming across his face, from around his eyes all the way to the area near his ears. That's the sign that he's fully awakened. Here's what makes this version of Isagi so powerful. Once he accepted that he was not a natural genius, he started playing differently. He let go of any distractions and focused only on winning. At that moment, he formed an unexpected chemical reaction with Kaiser and made a defensive move that outdid Rin, Loki, and even Noah. He found a new way to play, not as the hero, but as a pawn, a tool for victory. He even teamed up with Kaiser to crush Parasek's Jin. He saw Ness and everyone else on the field as equal pawns, read where his passes needed to go, and kicked the game-winning goal. After that match, his deal with Kaiser ended. Now everyone is calling Isagi Blue Lock's Demon King. Awakened Metavision is Isagi's ultimate weapon. With it, he crushes the geniuses by using pure logic. He found his own way to play. His brain is now fueled by the thrill and pleasure of that hunger. And from now on, you can bet he'll chase that feeling as he moves toward becoming the best in the world. But now that you've seen the upgraded version of Blue Lock's Eyes, make sure you check out the original video too. Or hey, even if you have, now's the perfect time to rewatch it with everything you just learned. Go ahead and click on the videos on your screen right now.